We met in September of 1992, and we dated for 5 years.
4.5.
And we were married in April of 1997.
97.
Yeah, 1997, April 26, 1997. And we got born again. We become a part of the church. We went through, foundation classes and membership classes, and became a servant here. And we were just here, and we started helping. And I remember the first time when Pastor Jim asked us to help with the youth. He said, "Hey, just won't you just help out with the youth a little bit?" And I don't know. I was a little bit reluctant.
Yeah, maybe intimidated a little bit.
Yeah,
because we weren't that old.
Right. Yeah. I was 21 and she was 18. So, so we weren't, that far removed from.
Right.
But I don't know. So I did. We just started helping. It's a great story. I mean, it really is about we was meeting in small rooms here in the church. The youth group had dwindled, and we began to have some functions. I remember the first was the lock-in.
Lock-in here, yeah. It was pre-carpet, pre-walls.
Yeah, pre-carpet, pre-walls.
Everything.
We had basketball hoops up in here, but I remember sending out a card to all the kids that was once at least attended here in some way. We sent the cards out, and kids showed up.
Yep.
They just showed up, and it seemed like from that point on, the Lord just started adding to this youth group, and we started growing. I certainly wasn't seasoned in anything, but I was just we were giving them our hearts.
Right.
And we were loving kids. We began to grow, and the next thing you know, they had to end up building another room for us because of the growth.
AKA the upper room.
Yeah, and actually it was right above here, right where the sound booth is.
Right.
And that's the room, actually it's the duplication room, and that we have now. That was what they built as the next phase they done for the youth, was to build that room for us. The Bible says a man's gift makes room for him. And we began to minister to kids' lives began to be changed. And the gift began to grow in me. I began to sense there was something on our lives. God began to move. I began to hone my craft. I got some opportunities to get some more training, and it was a good season of growth. But during that time, we began to take on more responsibilities here.
I think with us, a lot of it just started, like you said, we didn't have this massive event of a calling on our lives for the youth or for even being a pastor or whatever. I think it was just our heart just to serve in any capacity. There's that gift of helps, which everybody has. And as we went and served wherever we could, I mean, it didn't matter. We were here. Once we started having children, we just toted them along, and I think out of that servant's heart, the calling, like you said, the man's, the gift makes room for him. So
gotcha. So in the beginning, it was, "What do you need, Pastor Jim?"
Yeah, it was just us
because
wanting to
one day he looked at me and he said, "I need a teacher." I was like, "Okay, we'll start asking around." He went, "No, you're going to teach." And I was like, "But I'm not a teacher." And so I started teaching. I think kindergarten through second grade or something like that, and I've done preschool. But it's just out of that servant's heart.
He was calling out the treasure.
He did, yeah. He was good at that.
Yeah,
he was really good at that.
But we were dependable, and we were faithful, and God rewards faithfulness.
Right.
And but it was during that season of growth. I mean, I look back at that time, and it was preparation. And even when I was at the hospital, me learning how to deal with people, how to deal with difficult physicians, how to be in stressful situations. It really was a training ground for me. In 2010, I left the healthcare field, and I came here full-time, and to be the full-time youth pastor and executive pastor, just to help him an associate full-time. Yeah, well, and before it was full-time.
It was full-time before.
It was full-time before.
Officially.
It was full-time before, but officially being, as my official place of employment was in 2010. And we moved into that spot, And then,
And that was a time of stretching too.
oh my.
And that was just a big time of, for us, stretch and, stepping out on faith for leaving a good job,
Yes.
Comfy job.
That's good.
No,
a
yeah.
comfortable spot. I mean, that was a big stretch for us.
Yeah, and there was
The Lord has stretched us a lot
yes.
that way.
And there was sacrifice.
Major.
Lots of sacrifice.
I mean, even from the time I stayed home
Yeah, I mean,
after Nora.
after Nora was born,
That was a
huge step. And then when I left the hospital.
But it all goes back to God knows the desires of our hearts. And He knew it was a desire of mine to stay home, and He made it happen. I mean, it may have been last minute. And I think that was another thing. It was last minute. I mean, I did go back to work for a month with her, but just the doors that He opened, and I think it all goes back to faithfulness.
Yep.
We're givers, we serve, and it's
Yeah, I
it's
remember
stretching.
the day that Andy had wanted to stay home after being home with Nora for 6 weeks, and I just really didn't know how that was going to actually happen.
Because I had a very comfortable job.
Yeah.
For not having a college education, I had a very comfortable job.
And
very blessed.
Very, 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 very blessed.
Yeah.
And but I remember, and I didn't know. I just didn't know about her staying home. I didn't know, really, honestly, just didn't know how we was kind of going to make that, happen, because we were so used to, I mean, you get used to the lifestyle that you live. But I remember me sitting in traffic one day, and over on 34, where the horse rink is in Winfield, and I was there at that time. The road wasn't in, so that there was a long line of traffic that would be there in the evening time. And I was sitting there, and I was right there, right around the horse rink there, and the Lord spoke to me. He said, "What you make happen for others, I'll make happen for you." Mm-hmm. And I knew then that I was going to make a dream happen for her, because at that time I began to feel like I wanted to possibly pursue ministry on a full-time basis. In the realm that I am now. Mm-hmm. There was a desire in my heart at that point, because the Lord, people have asked me too, like, how did you know you were called? I didn't have like these epiphany moments. Right. Like these, some people say, even their calling, like how they're, people will say they go to the altar and the Lord, the heavens open, and there's people that have those experiences, where they feel that God called them at that point or have this place. I don't really have like a memorial stone saying this was the day that I felt called. It was just something that grew in me. Mm-hmm. And that's all I can say to people. People have asked me this several different times. How'd you know you were called? It just grew. And it was just like a seed that got planted in me. Mm-hmm. And then that seed began to grow. And there was a point where you just knew. I think as we saw people being ministered to, especially with the kids, we saw people's lives being changed. I began to notice even the abilities to be able to teach, mm-hmm. right, or to be able to take Scripture, explain it to someone, make it easy for them to understand. In 2010, I came here, and then, Pastor Jim was diagnosed with colon cancer in June of 2010. And then, of course, he went home to be with the Lord in October the 4th of 2013. And at that point is when I stepped into the full-time position, or the lead pastor, the senior pastor of this church. It's really interesting, because I will say this with great confidence. I had his heart. I prayed for that. I served him. I helped him. The Lord told me, he said, how can you be faithful with something I give to you if you're not faithful with somebody else's? Now, me and Pastor Jim, we were different, and it's okay. But the seed and the DNA of this church is in us. Mm-hmm. So I think when we were transitioning, and the Lord was, at that time, we look back and we can see the hand of the Lord moving in different ways to prepare us. So when he went home and to be with the Lord, of course we mourned. Yeah. I mean, to be honest, I don't think that I probably mourned the way that I probably should have. Right. Not because I didn't want to, it's just because I had to move this church forward. The church, it seemed that even though we lost this man that was very, very special to all of us, but it was almost like the church never really, it transitioned very smoothly. And that has been a great blessing.
Yeah.
You know, I look across the congregation of this church, and I see a lot of, all these veterans that are in this place. They stood behind us. They believed in us. They didn't bail. It's very easy. People can do those type of things in transitions, but we're such a strong family here. We've saw the church grow. The church was growing then, before we took over, but it has really grown. And God has brought in a lot of different people into this church. And that's been a really cool thing to see.
What I think is really neat about one of the many things that's neat about the whole transition is how Pastor Jim basically instilled in us, taught us how a church is not built upon a man. And I think a lot of that, I mean, he was a great man, great foundations and everything like that, but how he always pointed us to Jesus no matter what. And I think that helped. And him sharing his heart so much that, like you said, the veterans that are still here, that have stuck it through thick and thin, had his heart as well, which is the heart for the church.
Which is the foundations. And Pastor Jim was a foundation layer. I remember several times from the pulpit, he would say things like, this, and he would point to me, and this guy right here, he will be the person that takes this church to the next level.
He's a
or,
visionary.
I always called him, he was a foundation man.
Yeah.
And I think that personally, our calling has been here is to take this to the next, to take it to the next level. To build on the foundation. Of course, we're built on the foundation of the apostles and the prophets.
Right.
And like Apostle Paul said, Jesus Christ being the chief cornerstone. But we've built on this. And Pastor Jim built a foundation here. And now we, over the last 8 years, we're taking it to the next level. And, if the Lord would tarry, the next person can take it to the next level.
Right.
I look across this room every week, and I see new people that's been here 6 months, 2 years, 3 years, that I know is going to be great pillars in our church. That I know that God is going to actually put in 25 years. We're going to look back and say, talk about them.
They become the veterans.
They become the veterans.
They'll be making these videos.
They'll be making these
Yeah.
videos, right?
Yeah.
And we fade off the scene, which is the way it should be.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about not just about where we've come from, but where we're going, and the generations that's going to be touched and changed through everything that we're going to do in the future. Our community needs us, and our church is going to be open. And God is sending us people to be able to take care of those needs. So I'm excited about what God is, not just what He has done. I'm excited about what God is
doing and going to do.
is doing and going to continue to do. I love to think about the future. We got buildings to build. We got more things to do. We got more impact in our community to make. And it takes people. And Barry, we have some great people here. Great,
Yes, we do.
great people. This is not just about one man or me. It's about what Jesus has done. And I don't think anybody could sit on this hill and you could hear the stories that wouldn't know that this is the work of the Lord. And the stories that we have heard and continue to hear
Yeah.
of lives being changed.
The miracles that have taken place.
The miracles have
Yeah.
taken place. Lives, marriages, all the
Yeah,
things that's happened,
families.
that people have been restored, right? People have been brought out of addiction
Yeah.
into freedom. I mean, these things are moving to me. I mean, just really moving.
Yeah.
Because this is about people.
Right.
This ain't got nothing to do with me or her. Or it's about people.
Yep.
And we give our lives for people. It's the heartbeat of this church. And it will continue to carry us through. And we will continue to grow.
Yeah.